Hey YouTube, this is Fabled Rio, and right now I wish this coffee was something a little bit stronger, because holy crap. So last night, I'm at my friend's place hanging out, okay? And we're actually doing a fantasy football draft. It's like a 16 league, really small. All of our teams are stacked. I did really well, by the way. But, so, I'm doing well in Halo, doing okay in Brawl, doing well in my fantasy draft, hanging out with my friends, having some pizza, having some beer, stuff like that. Then I checked my phone. I'm trying to get on Pojo, the trading site, right? And I'm wondering why the server has been so busy. And then I get a text from my friend asking me if I have seen the new list. Now, a week or two ago, I saw the rumored OCG list that was recently confirmed for Japan. And that was like, okay, Baby Dragons are banned, Judgment's banned, Trishula's back, whoop-de-doo, Big Eye to 1, stuff like that. It was, you know, stuff that hit the top tier decks, but that's really all it did. Last night, they came out with the TCG version for America. And to say that they made some changes, it's an understatement. When I saw this list, first off, I was speechless. Second off, I then felt like I had just been kicked in the ass. That is quite literally how I described it to my friends I was talking to about this. So I'm going to give you guys a rundown of this list. And there's also one more stipulation of this list that I will address after I'm done. So, first order of business. Burner, Lightning, Reactin, Stream. The 4 Baby Dragons are banned. I don't have a problem with this. I didn't have a problem with this when the OCG came out because these guys sort of made Dragon Rulers sort of essential decks, so now the Dragon Rulers are just, you know, you can still run 3 of them, you can run them in individual decks, but they're not as well together. So that I was okay with as sort of a way to kill the Dragon Ruler deck. Elemental Hero Stratos. Of all the times... Alright, so before I continue, I've noticed the theme with this list is not only have they decided to hurt the top tier decks, but also some of the FTKs that still exist in this game, and also some of those like auto win if you draw this card kind of thing. So I'll explain that more as I go through. They also decided to hit a lot of the staples. And when I say this is a big kick in the ass, this is a big kick in the ass for the entire American game right now. So, Elemental Hero Stratos. Probably the single best Elemental Hero card that searches for any hero monster, pop spell traps. It's like, it's the reason why heroes are good. Banned outright. Number 16 Shockmaster. Banned. This was quite surprising because as good of a card Shockmaster is, and against certain decks when you summon it and you shock lock them, it's absolutely insane. Can't do it anymore. Card Destruction. Since when were Dark Worlds a thing still? I mean, granted, it is one of those cards that if you draw it, you're going to go off and go nuts. But why now? Gateway of the 6. Peace out, 6 Samurais. That was your sort of auto-win card that if Samurais drew into the Gateway, they go off. Heavy Storm, banned. First off, I'm actually slightly okay with this, just because of when they brought MST back to 3, I thought that's when they should have banned Heavy Storm, because Heavy Storm is one of those cards that is very format defining, and there's a lot of debate on whether Heavy Storm should be at 1, Heavy Storm should be at 0. And it's one of those cards that pretty much determines the pace of the format. So while while Heavy Storm was banned for a little while, and that was your, like, Gravekeeper or TG format, where it's like summon a monster, set 5, and you don't have to worry about people like mass popping your back row as much. That was the format without Heavy Storm. And then when Heavy Storm came back to 1, and they started coming out with a lot of these really powerful accelerated decks, like your Prophecy, your Dragon Ruler, stuff like that, just really, the game sped up a lot, and, traps, people would just flat out stop running traps because it's 3 MSTs and then side Heavy Storm. So, Heavy Storm banned. Monster Reborn, banned. Another one of those staple cards that has been on and off the ban list. I'm not too concerned about this because it honestly is one of those cards that pretty much deserves to be banned. So, but it's one of those cards that everyone ran, or most decks ran. I think like Prophecies stopped running it, and some other decks like decided Gravekeepers don't run it. But outside of that, it's just one of those. It's one of those staple cards that they're hitting. Pot of Avarice, banned. Now, YouTube, this one hurts me in a very special place, let me tell you. First off, Pot of Avarice was one of those cards that it was good. It's been on and off the restricted list. It was at 1, it was at 2, it was at 3. It really had its shining moment in the Synchro era when, because of how accelerated the decks became, and Pot of Avarice pretty much recycled all your plants and stuff, and you get a +1 off it. So I'm not sure this is sort of their way of getting rid of one of those auto-win. I'm not even sure if I can call Pot of Avarice an auto-win. It's just a +1 that recycles 5 monsters back to your deck. I think this is supposed to be sort of the hit for some of the Synchro decks. I mean, it's a card that recently really has not been played because of how most Xyz-based decks don't really rely on the graveyard as much. So, Pot of Avarice is flat out banned. As a Fable player, Fable Grimro, who has 3 Ultimate Pot of Avarices and quite enjoyed running my 3 Ultimate Pot of Avarices in that deck, this hurts me in a very special place. Solemn Judgment, banned. Wow, okay. Another one of those very powerful staple cards that everyone used to run, and it was at 3 for a while, so it had like your 3 Solemn format, got limited to 1, Warning came out, it was kind of the same idea. But Solemn has actually been seeing, I've noticed, a lot of less and less play because of a lot of the OTK potential a lot of decks have. So if you Solemn 1 play, and, well, first off, because Heavy Storm was not a thing as much as it used to be this last format because of the lack of back row. Solemn, if you Solemned some card at, like, first or second turn where you still have a ton of life points left, half your life points, and then your opponent decides to go off and they just have to, like, attack you twice per game. Solemn was one of those cards that wasn't seeing a whole lot of play like it used to because of the format, but it's still one of those staple traps that everyone ran. So that's one of those staples they're trying to hit. Super Rejuve, that's one of the ways that another way they want to hit dragons is just hit their, draw 16 card. I think Japan had it at 1, which I was okay with, but now it's outright banned. Again, I guess it deserves it, but okay. Spellbook of Judgment. This was another one that the OCG had, and now we have, and I thought it maybe should have just gone to 1, but I'm still okay with it because Prophecies were still an okay deck before Judgment, and Judgment really took them over the top. So now they really just have to kind of go back to what they were with, like, the 3 Priestess. They'll get the Blue Eyes support because they can use that extremely well. It's just that they can't do their play a lot of spells, add all the stuff back to the hand, massive pluses, and then end on Jalgan. So, my one friend who plays Spellbooks is actually kind of happy about it because that is the only hit that they actually did to the Spellbook deck. So he can still run the deck, and the deck is actually still really good without Judgment. Just Judgment really took it over the top, so it's kind of... Prophecies kind of took a step back to what they were before Tachyon Galaxy. And then the last ban card is Ultimate Offering, which was another one of those, if I draw this card, I win kind of thing. So a lot of gadgets, Madolches, I think some Mermails are running it. It's one of those cards that, in the certain decks that really abused it, if you draw this card, you win pretty much, because you're going to go off. So that's banned. Limited. Atlantean Dragoons. This I'm actually okay with, because this is like your search card for Mermails. In the OCG, they limited Abistius, one of the level 7 guys that searches. I'm okay with the Dragoons because it's more generic. So, this one I understand. Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Spirits. In the OCG, instead of Spirit getting limited, they got Rooster limited, which severely hurt 3 Axis consistency, but it was still a playable deck. With Spirit at 1, the deck is almost unplayable, because that was their level 3 synchro that they needed to go into Horse Prince and to go off. So, Spirit at 1 kind of killed it. I think they chose Spirit over Rooster for the TCG, because Rooster just came out as a secret rare, as an expensive secret rare, I might add. So if they limited Rooster, no one's going to buy the new set. So, Spirit to 1 really hurts the deck. Deep Sea Diva to 1. This was another one of those ways, I think, to hurt Mermails. But this one I don't really understand as much, because to my knowledge, especially with Dragoons limited as well, the Mermail deck stopped. Deep Sea Diva just became an option to them. Because of, with Title, they can focus more on rank 7s instead of the, like, Undyne Diva, that kind of thing. So this one I'm kind of questioning, is why Diva to 1, and I guess because you can't Diva into a Diva, which was sort of like what they did anyway, but, or you Diva into one of the Atlanteans, that's what they also did. I think it was just one of those OTK things, but as the deck, it wasn't like a focus of the deck as it used to be before Title. Gen X Ally Birdman. This was one of the things that got me a little bit mad on the OCG list, was that they limited both Birdman and Divine Wind. Both of them were part of an FTK with Heartbeat Dancer, which I know they try to like sort of stamp out FTKs, but I didn't really think it was that much of a relevant problem for them to go ahead and hit Birdman and Divine Wind. Now, in our list, they did not hit Divine Wind, but they did hit Birdman to 1 still, which Birdman is arguably probably one of the best tuner monsters that we still have out. So this was one of the cards that I was a little upset with the OC list, and I feel a little bit better about it on the TCG because we have Divine Wind still, and you can still do stuff with that. But Birdman, I thought, was one of the things they should have left alone and maybe like hit other things. Rescue Rabbit to 1. So pretty much anything rabbit based gets hit. So this is their Evil Swarm hit pretty much. So you only have 1 rabbit to go into 2 heliotropes. This is your Dino Rabbit hit. This is your I can't even call it a Noble Knight hit, because I think they stopped running rabbit because of Dristan and Madrow are better than just rabbit 2 normals. But pretty much anything rabbit-based is dead. Thunder King Rio to 1. This, again, is something that I can... It kind of sucks because it's such a good card, but it was one of the best anti-meta cards that we had, and that it pretty much became a 1900 level 4 win condition of itself against some decks, as it really hurt a lot of the Xyz, a lot of the searching that happens. So, Thunder King at 1, I can understand. Ivagishki Mind August. This was another one of those FTKs that they attempted to hit. just a quick history on the Gishki thing. There is a loop with Heretics and the rank 6 Gishkis, and there's a few variants of it. The first one that they hit before was the Gust Kraken, which is essentially like loop Gust Kraken to have a bunch of rank 6s and level 6s out in your field with the Heretics, contributing with the ritual spell, because you get the Heretics effects when you offer them as a ritual. Summon a bunch of Gust Krakens and your opponent has no hand. So they hit that, and that kind of like died. Then people discovered that there is sort of like a deck out. There's a lot of loops with Mind August, and that you can use Mind August's sort of recycle 5 cards from the graveyard effect to keep recycling cards like a lot of your draw cards and like 1 day a piece. So pretty much you would almost like deck yourself out with the Gishkis, just draw, search, Mind August, recycle back 1 day a piece, and like mill your opponent out that way. There was a lot of really crazy OTK loops with this card, and that's how they addressed it. So Mind August to 1. Duloran Tiger King of the Ice Barrier to 1. This one, I don't quite understand why they're doing this. Duloran is one of those cards that, yes, again, there's another loop with it, but the loop was, again, never really a thing. A lot of people can't really explain it right, like what you're supposed to do. You pretty much need like 3 Dulorans to do the loop anyway, which is why Duloran was at 2 for a little while, and now they put it to 1, and I don't really understand why. So if someone wants to enlighten me on this, please. Constellar Ptolemy M7 to 1. This, as also a Constellar player, I'm kind of okay with, because M7's sort of brokenness was because of all the rank. It was pretty much the best generic rank 6, and was a part of that Heretic Gishki loop that I mentioned before. That's how you go to M7, you get a thing back from your graveyard. For the Constellar deck itself, it's not much of a hit, because most only run 1, maybe 2. I personally run 2, but I can just as easily drop it to 1, and that's fine. So this is another one of those that I understand why they did it. So, okay. Dimensional Fissure to 1. D-Fissure was one of those sort of cards that got, because of the Xyz mechanic, D-Fissure became a lot more broken than what it used to be, where it was just like, you have your macro monarch kind of thing, you side D-Fissures against certain matchups and it would hurt it. And then with Xyz, the Xyz mechanic sort of got around D-Fissure, so you detach, send it to the graveyard while D-Fissure's still out. And just one of the ways to hurt certain decks. So this is sort of a slap in the face of some of the anti-meta things. So D-Fissure to 1, Gold Sark to 1. Again, I sort of understand with some of the Dragon Rulers, because they get their effects off of Gold Sark, so they ban the baby dragons, they ban Super Juve, they limit Gold Sark. Gold Sark went from being sort of like this generic search card, but it's really slow, to pretty much being a free rota with the dragons. So, Gold Sark to 1, okay. Royal Tribute to 1, I don't understand why, because I'm guessing because Heavy Storm is banned, they're going to assume that Gravekeeper is making a comeback, and 1 Royal Tribute. Bottomless Trap Hole to 1, another one of those staple trap cards that, was probably one of the best trap cards in the game for a long time. It was at 2, people ran it at 2 anyway, and now it's at 1, so only 1 Bottomless. Same thing with Compulsory Evacuation Device. One of those cards that absolutely wrecks Xyz and Synchro plays, and now you can only have 1. Eradicator Epidemic Virus to 1. This I'm actually kind of okay with, because this became such an intense, not even like side card, because people started to main it now, and a lot of decks could do it because of Crazy Box. Whatever can make rank 4 can do it, whatever can make rank 5 can do it with Adrius. Set Fuel-Sire, stuff like that. There's a lot of ways to make this card insane, and it's one of those, if you draw this card especially against like a spell books or certain matchups, it wrecked them. So Eradicator to 1, Macrocosmos to 1, C Dimensional Fissure. So 1 D-Fissure, 1 Macrocosmos. 1 Soul Drain, another one of those side cards that hurts a lot of decks. 1 Soul Drain. And also, finally, 1 Torrential Tribute. I'm okay with that because that's another one of those staple traps. Probably should not have gone to 2 in the first place, and I'm okay with that at 1. Semi-Limit. Mizuki to 2, Plague Spreader to 2. Zombies haven't really been a thing for a little while, but they're obviously trying to push the new like Ghost Tricks and Vampires that are going to be coming out in the next set, Shadow Specters. So I'm kind of okay with that. They haven't really been relevant for a little while. TG Striker to 2. That was one of those things that really hit the OCG, the TG agents, for a while. So Striker to 2. That kind of brings them back a little bit. That I'm kind of okay with. Tenki to 2. That I'm also kind of okay with because it's Rhoda, arguably a better Rhoda. Doesn't really hurt the consistency of a lot of the decks that run it as much because you can still run 2, so that's okay. And Dimensional Prison to 2, I really don't understand because I can't even call it like a staple trap anymore. Most people just ran 2 anyway, so 2D prisons is kind of whatever. So that's Semi-Limit. And then finally, no longer limited, so you can run 3 of these cards. D-Hero Malicious. I don't know how I feel about that anymore because of Stratos getting banned, but rank 6's Rejoice. Heroes, 3D draws 3 Malicious. That's back now. Agent of Mystery Earth is at 3. So now TG agents are kind of back in full swing with 2 Strikers and 3 Earth, so this is a bump to agents. Tsukiyomi at 3, doesn't matter as much. A Hero Lives at 3, doesn't matter because Stratos is banned. Black Whirlwind at 3. OCG got this card at 2, we're getting it 3. So people were like, oh, Black Wings are back. When it was at 2 and now it's at 3, so they might become a thing again. E-Call at 3, again, Stratos banned, doesn't matter. Hierotic Seal of Convocation, that's their Rhoda card at 3. They hit some of the other stuff for the Hierotic loop, so the pure Hierotic deck is now sort of intact, and they hit some of the loops they did with Gishkis, so Seal at 3 I understand. Pot of Duality to 3, again, that's one of those cards that I'm kind of okay with, because it's really slow, and it was at 2, at 3, not that much of a difference. And then finally, Scapegoat at 3. As someone who played in the Goat Control format, this is another one of those like wait and see kind of things, because since then, since Scapegoat was at 1, it hasn't been a relevant card for a long time. Maybe like a little bit in the Plant Synchro era, but Scapegoat at 3, we're going to see how that's going to go, if it's going to be a thing or not. So that's the list. Again, this is supposed to be a video of my thoughts, and I'm not even sure how I don't know how I feel about this list. It's a lot of change at once, and like I said, it's like a swift kick in the face, in the ass, whatever you want to call it. So